Hello YouTube and happy New Year. We've made it. It is now officially the second day of 2021. And to be honest, I'm so glad that 2020 is gone. I'm so happy that 2020 is gone. So I just wanted to make a short video, hopefully a short video, as I do my makeup, talking about the year that was. For me, I think beginning of this new year, or rather the end of 2020, I asked myself like a lot of questions. Namely, what have I learned from 2020? I mean, it's very easy to go through something very difficult and to lament on the pain of yesterday without having taken anything from it. So I've tried for the past couple of years to always look at my life as a series of lessons. A series of lessons that are put in my path to make me a better person, a stronger person, a kinder person, a more compassionate person. And I think the one major lesson that 2020 has taught me is the importance of hope. Like, as somebody of trans experience, it's so easy to get caught in the narrative of your life being this tragedy. It's so easy to get caught in this whole like mindset of, oh, things are so difficult and I'm not going to make it, or to believe that only bad lies before you. And I think the danger in hopelessness is that it kills you. It slowly kills you. I saw with myself, like, I think especially in like September and October and even into early November, I was just so down and out. Like, I had very little hope. I kind of got stuck in this weird state of mind where I believed that things were never going to improve for me. And when I got into that mindset, I started developing very unhealthy coping mechanisms. Very unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I realized as the year was coming to a close that it was important that if I was going to get through my life, it was important that I try to adopt a hopeful mindset. You know what I mean? So that is one thing that I definitely learned. So let's talk about New Year's and what I did. So currently I'm staying with a friend in his apartment. And we have been going out. Now, on the 26th of December, him and I went out to this gay club. Now, when we went out to the club, there wasn't that many people, so we ended up meeting a couple of people from Johannesburg. And there was a boy that I met there. So we're going to call this boy James. And James is kind of like a surfer boy. He has like this wavy blonde hair, kind of a man bun, and he permanently has a smile on his face. Yeah, he's just like all about good vibes, peace, flower child, that sort of thing. So James is all about that, you know what I mean? So him and I, we started vibing, and he was really sweet. And when we were vibing, I told him that I was trans, and he was super accepting and super chilled with everything. Now, at some point, we go to somebody else's apartment, and me and James, we become intimate, like we hook up. Now, you need to understand, like, when I went out, I had no intentions of meeting anybody. It wasn't in my mindset to go out and meet a guy. Like, I don't think it's ever in my mindset to do that, but it happened. And James was an absolute sweetheart. He was very like, I don't know, like he was very sensitive, he was very attentive, and he was just very, very sweet. Now, for somebody like me, who has been treated so bad by guys, so for somebody like me who's been treated so bad by guys, it means so much when a guy treats me like that. It means so much when a guy holds me and is just very like compassionate and all of that. And plus, I'm a Cancer, James is a Pisces. So, we clicked on that like emotional level, and he kind of gave me everything that I needed to get. And for those that don't know, I am a top. So I don't like bottoming for guys, because I think when I do bottom, it's such a vulnerable experience for me. And I would rather, if I am going to bottom, I would rather bottom for somebody that I've been dating, somebody that I'm like serious about, but never for like a random guy, you know what I mean? But it just so happened that I bottomed for this guy. Now, I don't regret it, but I definitely learned something from that experience. I learned, sorry, I have like a throat infection and it's annoying me. So I'll be clearing my voice during this video. So anyways, me and James, we hook up, and the following day, I sent him a message and I'm like, thank you so much for such a beautiful night. You were the sweetest guy. I couldn't have asked more from you. He doesn't respond. Now, I've been in the game for a long time. I know how these guys are. I know that if you message a guy and he doesn't respond, often it's because he doesn't want to respond, and maybe he didn't see you the way you saw him. You know what I mean? So I sent him another message and he doesn't respond. So at this point, I get the message that he's not really interested in talking to me. He's not interested in getting to know me the way that I was interested in getting to know him. So obviously, I feel rejected, if anything else. Like, I felt really, really rejected. But I was like, you know what? We move. We move. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. We move. And one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to chase after a guy. I'm not going to like beg a guy to want to be with me. Because if for him it was just a one night stand, then it is just a one night stand. And I'm not going to chase after any dude. I literally am not going to chase after any dude. It's just not going to happen. So we end up going out again. So we go to this house party. So South Africa is under complete lockdown now. Nightclubs are not operating. I think curfew is at like 9 o'clock. Selling alcohol is prohibited. So we are under an intense lockdown. But we go to this house party. Cool, whatever. There weren't that many people there. I think there were about like 15 of us. So it was super, super chilled. Guess who rocks up at the house party? Frickin' James. Now, I sort of told myself that I wasn't going to go up to James or say anything. I wasn't going to greet him. I was just going to be chilled, and I was going to just sit by myself and sit with my friends. My friends end up seeing James, and they're like, oh, let's go say hi to James. So we all walk up to him, and I give him a hug. And he was really sweet, for, like, I'll give him credit where credit is due. He was really sweet, he gave me a hug. But I could sort of see that he was not interested in talking about the previous night. He wasn't, for him it was just a random hookup. And it's so crazy because I think for girls of trans experience, or just trans people and gay people in general, we appreciate it so much when a guy shows us attention. And we appreciate all of the small things, you know what I mean? And for me, like, I just really appreciated how he made me feel. It meant so much to me. But obviously for him it didn't. And I just needed to accept that. And one thing is, like, a lot of people ask me, how do you get over guys so fast? How do you move on so quickly? And how do you deal with the rejection? And for me, it's the decision first and the feelings come after. Just because I've made the decision that I'm not going to run after this man doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. You know, it doesn't mean that the rejection still doesn't sting. And it doesn't mean that when I see him, I don't feel a little bit salty. I definitely still feel salty, but I'm not going to like act on it. I'm not going to like run after him. I'm not going to like, you know, like make a fool of myself. You know what I mean? I've made the decision that he does not want me. I can see from his actions that he is not interested. And I am not going to run after a guy who's not interested in me. It doesn't work that way. And even though my heart does hurt, even though I do feel like I'm not going to say he made a fool of me because I was an active participant in that evening. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to like blame him too much, but I'm also not going to allow myself to be played with. You know, it's one thing if a guy like plays with you the first time. It's another thing if he plays with you the second time. But the third time, at some point, you need to get to a point where you're like, he just sees me as a joke. He's not taking me seriously. And he's not looking for what I'm looking for. So I need to get to a point where I protect my feelings. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, and this is what I've learned with having random hookups and meeting guys and all of that. Yes, you can be on PrEP. Yes, you can use a condom. But a condom is not going to save you from a broken heart. A condom is not going to spare your feelings. A condom is not going to save your reputation. When you hook up with these guys, when you have these one-night stands, you are the one who's going to be left with the feelings. You know what I mean? And there's nothing that's going to save you from those feelings, and you're just going to have to go through with them. So I just let it go. But now, adding injury to insult, there was a girl there, like this Taiwanese girl, that was really, really sweet. We were clicking. Tell me why James starts making out with this girl. So I just left it at that. I was like, he clearly, that's who he wants to be with, whatever. Now at the pool party, there was this black guy. And I'm not really into black guys, but he was gorgeous. This guy was gorgeous. And he had like the sexiest accent I'd ever heard. So I noticed how he kept looking at me. So at some point, he comes and he says hello, and we start talking. And I just start vibing with this guy immediately. I'm like, okay, this boy is gorgeous. I want to meet up with him. And I thought, you know, he was such a nice distraction from James because James was out doing his own thing. And, you know, little Tyrese over here is out here talking to me. So I'm like excited. You know what I mean? Now, tell me why James comes up and sits next to us and tells me that, oh, this is his best friend from way back when. And the minute he said that, I was like, I'm not going to be messy. I'm not going to sleep with the one guy and then hook up with his friend. And lo and behold, his friend obviously didn't know I was trans. So I was just kind of like, let me just leave these guys. I'm not going to use a man to get over another man. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be so self-destructive within myself. And I used to do that in 2020. That was me all day, every day. I would use a guy to get over another guy. And I thought that it was healthy, but it wasn't, because it wasn't giving me the time that I needed to heal. It wasn't allowing me the time that I needed to process the pain of the rejection. And we get so caught up in how much we were hurt. We get so caught up in the fear of the rejection that we do almost anything and everything to avoid it. And that's not healthy. Sometimes you just need to sit and you just need to be with it. You know what I mean? You just need to sit there in that space and be like, I was rejected. It hurts, but I'm gonna love myself into healing. I'm gonna support myself into healing, and I don't reject myself. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I left these two boys and I started talking to this friend of mine. Now, his name is Robert. Love him. So we're at a gay party and he obviously saw me last week at the gay club. So we're talking and we're vibing. And he's curious because he's all like, what is this black girl doing in gay spaces? Like, so he starts asking me, he's all like, so are you like a lesbian? Are you into guys? Are you into both? Like, what are you? And I've always taken that as a cue that somebody's asking me about my transition. So I'm like, oh, I'm a trans woman, that's why I'm here. He got the biggest smile on his face. I'll never forget his reaction. He just pulled out his arms, he pulled me into his chest, and he gave me the biggest hug. And he was like, what the hell? Like, I had no idea. You're so beautiful. I'm so proud of you. Like, what? So he had the best reaction. So then he sits down and he's like, I love that for you. But tell me, like, what are you into? Are you into guys? Are you into girls? Are you into both? And I realized something that I've seen before, that not everybody is asking about your transition. Sometimes we are so quick to give out that information, you know what I mean? We're so quick to give out personal information and we think that everyone is curious about our transition. And the reality is they're not. They're really, really not. We as trans women and trans men, we need to see ourselves as we are. If you're a trans woman, you are a woman. You're a two-spirited woman who's had trans experience. That is what you are. You're a woman. You're a heterosexual woman or a bisexual woman or a homosexual woman, but you're a woman. You know what I mean? So we need to get away from this whole idea or this whole narrative of basing everything that we are on our trans experience. And I learned something from these past couple of nights, you know what I mean? Something that I hadn't really seen before. Like, look, I've made videos about how the gay community is very toxic towards trans women. I've made videos about how, sorry about that, I literally just had to pause my video. But going back to what I was saying, I really think we need to start seeing ourselves as we are. And for the longest time, I always felt that I needed to explain to people that I was trans, to tell people that I was trans. And I put myself in situations where I was rejected by people. I was rejected by people who never deserved to hear anything about my story. You know what I mean? Like, we don't owe these people any type of explanation. And I've realized, especially within the gay community, that gay clubs essentially are clubs for homosexual men. And anyone who isn't a homosexual man is almost like a guest in the gay community. Like, no joke, no hate. That is essentially how they see us. They see us as guests in their community. So to walk into gay spaces expecting the LGB to have their arms open for us is, I don't want to say delusional, but you're setting yourself up for a disappointment, because by and large, gay men will always be cisgender first. They will always be cisgender first, and they will always cling to their cis identity over and above everything else. So I'm past the point of feeling that I need to tell anyone anything about myself. I mean, I've come so far in my transition where physically I am like 90% where I want to be, you know what I mean, in terms of my possibility. So I'm not gonna now put myself in a state where I keep reminding people that I'm trans. Like, what for? What for? What am I hoping to get from that? And so that's the one thing I'm definitely leaving behind in 2020. a friend of mine. We're going to call him Steven. So Steven is a trans man. He's kind of like, he's a bit podgy, but he's super, super cute. And he's kind of like a biker boy. Now, Steven is still early in his transition, but he still looks really, really good. Do you know what I mean? So last year he was sitting at the club and he's sitting next to these gay guys. And obviously the one gay guy was checking him out because he assumed he is a gay man at the club. So the guy's checking him out and someone must have said something. So the guy looks at Steven, like stares at him, and then he's all like, Steven being a sweetheart is like, hey, what's up? So the guy's like, can I please see your ID? So Steven, being completely sweet and innocent, gives this man his ID. Now, Steven's gender marker is still on his ID, so it still says F instead of M. And the guy looked at it and he sort of smirked and he was like, I knew it, you're one of these imposters. And he just threw it at Steven. And Steven ended up going back into the restrooms and like crying the whole of that evening because of how invalidated he felt. We don't owe these people our stories. It is okay to be secretive about your story. It's okay to be protective about your story because your story is close to your heart and you don't need to be invalidated by any of these people. You don't need their approval. You only need to approve of yourself. You don't need their hatred. You only need to love yourself. And you don't need their acceptance. You really, really don't. And we live our lives so desperate and needy for other people's acceptance because we think that it's going to improve our lives. We think that once they accept us, we become beautiful. No, once you accept yourself, that is when you become beautiful. So all of these guys, all of these LGBT community, we don't actually need them in the same way that we think that we need them. And this was a hard realization for me because I have a lot of gay friends. And even though I'm not gay myself, I relate so much to gay men and I have so much empathy and understanding for their struggle. And for the longest time, I'd always hoped that they would be understanding and compassionate to my struggle. And they're not. And it is okay because I don't need that because I'm strong enough and equipped enough to deal with my own transition. And I have my trans brothers and sisters and my allies standing side by side with me. So I don't need a whole nother community to validate or to approve of my existence. You know what I mean? And as far as guys go, I don't need to go from one guy to another in the hopes of healing. It's okay to make a decision and be like, this guy's not good for me. I'm not going to involve myself in that. And it's okay after the decision to still be in a place of pain. It's okay to still feel it. You know what I mean? So 2021, this is really going to be our year. I think we've gone through the worst with 2020. We have survived and we're still here. And only good things can lie before us. I love you guys so, so much. I cannot wait to see what this year has in store for all of us. I know that only healing and joy and love lies ahead of us. Thank you so much for watching my video. And yeah, tell me about your New Year's plans. What did you do? What did you learn? What has 2020 taught you? And how can you become a better person? I love you so much. Bye.